Thanks for staying with us on The Real Story. It was a difficult day last week when we all learned that U.S. service members lost their lives and were injured in an attack in Afghanistan. Dozens of Afghans also injured and killed. ISIS-K claiming responsibility for it. President Biden vowed not only to avenge their deaths, but also to press on and complete the mission. So that means the agreed deadline of August 31st for American troop withdrawal stands. Meanwhile, for Afghans, Taliban control is restrictive, to say the least, especially when it comes to women's rights in the country. We are grateful this morning to be joined by Yvonne Davis, an international relations expert who served under 3 U.S. presidents as a contractor: George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and Donald Trump, via the U.S. Department of State. Some of that work bringing her to Afghanistan, where she taught leadership and professional development to Afghan men and women, some of whom she still keeps in touch with. Yvonne, thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you. Thank you.
So first of all, we know that you also would go out, you'd promote, public diplomacy there. So your reaction first to the attack that happened at the airport in Kabul last week that killed our service members.
I'm not surprised that this took place. As a matter of fact, I knew something like that would take place. You have to look at everything from a macro perspective when you're dealing in a country like Afghanistan. ISIS in the Khorasan, which is located in Nigeria, Mali, in Iraq, parts of Iraq have never died down. They were just simmering. They looked for an opportunity. That was a fear that the Department of Defense had and others had with regards to this situation that's happening in Afghanistan. The fact that they are back and alive, they've never left. And so I was not at all surprised. What's surprising to me, however, is now we're depending on maybe the Taliban to kind of take control of the situation. And that is a scary thought.
That is a strange dichotomy there. I mean, it sounds like Taliban were in charge of screening these people before they were going into the airport. So the U.S. working with them in some way. You spent time in Afghanistan. You got to know some of the men and women who live there. Tell me about your time there and then your reaction to the decision to pull out American troops and how it was handled.
I have a lot of close relationships with people from Afghanistan. When I've been there 3 times and I taught there. I was a part of the election when Hamid Karzai was elected president. And I remember teaching my class, and the women were coming into the room saying, "Teacher, teacher," with the black ink on their index finger, "We voted." And so I was there witnessing when children had backpacks going to school, women were getting more of their rights and their own self-determination. Truly a very slow process, but there were some changes that I witnessed myself. And so knowing about the withdrawal, while in one sense I'm sad, it had to happen. This was the longest war in history, and so it was never going to end. And so the president had to make a decision. But the process for it is problematic, and how it happened. We have a lot of injuries. We now have deaths of our U.S. forces. And then we've had Americans that are still trapped inside of Afghanistan, Afghans who have been interpreters, have sacrificed their lives for our country, now cannot get out, even though there's 86,000 people that have been airlifted out. There are some stuck in there. And so it is in Arabia, they say, a mishkala kabira. It's a problem. It's a big problem right now. And it has to, it's sad too, because with the Taliban coming to power and me working with the women and knowing them, we're going to see some real recidivism taking place. It's already been happening, but women have been stopped from going into classrooms, into colleges. And Taliban supports women, girls only getting education to age 9. So we're going to see a rolling back like we've never seen before. It's very sad. It's a very sad occurrence. But at the same time, we have had Americans, 2,800 Americans have sacrificed their lives for a war that we did not win.
You keep in touch with some of the Afghans that you taught. Have you heard from them? And if so, what are they saying to you?
Yes, I did. I nicknamed her the ambassador, actually. She and I had a conversation. We've been talking back and forth, and she's been interpreting for me and Dari what's been taking place. And one of the things she told me is that the West should never have chosen, she said the West should never have chosen our presidents. President Afghani and President Hamid Karzai were not chosen by the people. She said they were chosen by the US and the Western allies. And so when you take that away from the people to vote, you've already killed their motivation for their own self-determination. And so if that's the case, that's a problem. But it also depends on where you come from in the country as well, because Afghanistan is made up of many tribes, of many ethnicities within the whole country and in the region. And so I think the biggest fear, of which she shared with me, her father was assassinated by the Taliban. She just said it's very sorrowful. Fortunately for her, most of her family is gotten out. They're in the US, but she does have extended family there, and she fears for their lives. Yes,
she's out of the country right now then?
Yeah, she went to Pakistan, because usually a lot of Afghans will go to Pakistan, but they're not welcome there too. And then she came to the US, and we do talk. And so I've helped some of the Afghan Foreign Service nationals that actually came here with resumes, giving them references to get jobs. And it's been a very tough time for them. And there's a lot of anguish.
Specifically here in Connecticut, you've been doing that?
I've done that for Afghans in Washington State, all over the United States. Most of them always put me down as a job reference. And because I taught them many things. And so I certified them for the U.S. Department of State, the professional training program. So yes, I am a reference to them to this day.
What do you think the U.S. should do moving forward?
I think that the U.S., well, President Biden is right. The U.S. should have gotten out of nation building a long time ago. It's a digital age of digital diplomacy that we have to start to look at. I think that the last administration, there were a lot of mistakes that were made. The one thing that was clear, you did not have as many terrorist encounters. What I'm concerned about is that for some reason, and it depends on administrations, that ISIS or Al-Qaeda and other affiliates feel emboldened to start the terrorist attacks again. And I'm very concerned about that. I just think we can't go to war without a real purpose. And I'm saying this under somebody who worked as an appointee of the former US president. And so I think that there wasn't a constructive long-term plan that made sense. And so now there was scrambling. The president said that he owns it, because he does own it. And August 31st, I was watching something on television. The Taliban was being translated. They said, the Taliban spoke and said, the U.S. must leave by August 31st. If we stay one day later, I dread the thought of what may happen. But ISIS is on the loose. The Taliban doesn't like ISIS, but the Taliban is a part of an Al-Qaeda affiliate as well. So that's what makes this thing so murky.
We are going to be watching the events coming this week, obviously, very, very closely. Yvonne Davis, so good to have you back on The Real Story. It's been a couple of years. Appreciate your time, and please keep in touch.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, that does it for us on The Real Story. If you want to watch these segments again, head to fox61.com or download the Fox 61 app and watch The Real Story every Sunday at 10 a.m. right here on Fox 61. Have a great morning.